Within a minute since his arrival on the ground floor, he already sees the night's first anarchistic anomaly. The light sweeps over a large box, and he brings it back so that we can examine an unpowered vending machine, partially emerging or forming from a mound of dark goo. The design and art on the machine is impeccable, looking straight out of the early 90s. It's also empty of food, which is just as well, since everything edible will have previously been something that was not. A shelf, perhaps, or the toaster oven it held. He soon has to start walking on twisted, melting material to proceed. It crunched like snow under his shoes, and he checks his feet often with the light and the camera. By now, his gimbal is basically mirroring his every head movement, and he may no longer be fully conscious of it, being separate from his body. The camera work is excellent. In other words, Chat never complains. A source of light stands out after he rounds one of the intact rows of shelves, or more accurately, a row that has actually only been partly covered and transitioned from the warehouse shelving to a mishmash of half-realized furniture and appliances. The light comes from several arcade cabinets, freshly hatched from the gunk and lacking any artwork. Or buttons, for that matter. The screens flicker rapidly between black and blurs, their power sources a mystery. Proceeding deeper in, he observes and highlights the empty racks for the audience, and says what's on his mind. The inventory is missing. All of these everyday items must be the fuel. Gives a totem raw material to mold into things like that, he adds, as the flashlight and camera point upwards. Dangling down from the unseen ceiling is a particularly large tendril, and attached to it is what appears to be an entire random and nondescript corner of some part of Sleepy Pines. The tile is shiny and clean. The two walls are solid without cracks or seeping goop. There's even a single pillar that supports nothing. Thing is, the geometry is warped, and nothing is in the correct proportions. God, what a mess. Euclid fans are wincing, he jokes. At the end of the row, we reach a break in the warehouse between sections, where a forklift is now mostly embedded in a poor recreation of the Sleepy Pines fountain. Its basin is dry, as the tar-like mutagen cannot create water, and in fact seems resisted by it. The fountain can't hold water anyway, as it's split in half by a fissure that's descending into the light-absorbing darkness. Also in the area seems to be a classic Sears sign that is melted to the floor, though its letters are slightly off and only the E is illuminated. There's a payphone that's attached to the side of a column by a single thread of gunk, showing the strange matter's strength. The mall's famous red Corvette has been remade and phased through a stack of wooden pallets, and even if it hadn't, it's still twisted and deformed into shapes no industrial machine could make. Nearby, a circular clothing rack that holds nothing but duplicate pairs of blue jeans has manifested like an artificial tree sprouting from one of the building's cleaning stations. "Why is it like this?" our host whispers, and scans over the object several more times. It's like two locations are just crammed together. Wherever it is, maybe the totem has activated this malfunctioning place. Did it trigger on its own? He pauses, his thoughts upon hearing a strange croaking sound from somewhere. Light and camera spin around to find the source, but there's nothing. It was unmistakably organic, however. There's at least one being or creature in this place. As he scans his surroundings, there's another noticeable occurrence. A second source of light suddenly fills the immediate area, and he quickly finds the reason. One of Sleepy Pine's old skylights has materialized directly above him, letting in some moonlight, dulled by cloud cover. The transforming effects of the totem are extending to the building's exterior as well. It's a sight worthy of attention, but he doesn't linger, since the light has made him further stand out to anyone moving around. He goes on deeper into the warehouse and potentially closer to the source of the corruption. And this is where we begin to delve into uncharted territory. Past the mall, before Sleepy Pines, the more distant history of the land, violently pulled out of time and poorly reconstructed. There's a well-defined space where the transition begins. We go to the mall's grand opening banner, draped down from a tower of copy-pasted front doors to rusted industrial pipes and girders. They bend together with a span of a few feet, like smeared three-dimensional oil paintings, and we find ourselves trapped within a nightmarish factory of some kind, like the distorted mall segments before it, continued to fuse with the warehouse of the present and the tar-like substance that has birthed temporal chaos. A lopsided sign erased any doubt of where he had settled. The words Vicker Brothers Steelworks hang from chains that fade into the darkness. The totem is pulling from the days of the foundry that operated between 1939 and 1964. Mortar shells were cast there during World War II. The building nearly burned down twice and cost 14 workers their lives over the years. The worst of the accidents, a large spill of molten metal, claimed 3 victims. I'm not mentioning these facts to claim that the site was cursed, but only out of a curiosity concerning the nature of the totem, if they have one at all. Why capture such a miserable time and place? Did someone want to preserve it, as the people did Sleepy Pines? Were they even aware of the strange instruments, or have the urge to create them? It's likely the totems are merely observers, forms of data storage, and advanced 3D printers without allegiance or disposition. Whatever they are, they have long memories. And the one that's active now, or was destroyed upon use, seems to have dug into the collective memory of the glowing metal, which appears as bright red and orange in the dark. Molten steel pours down shelves and misshapen elements of the factory, yet it doesn't flow. It's all frozen in motion. Nor does it seem to exude actual heat despite the glow, and our guide demonstrates this by holding his hand near a steaming pile of hot slag. Upon feeling nothing, he touches it directly to no effect. He even pushes it inward. It has the consistency of gel. "Weird," he remarks. It's like room temperature." Another croak. It's coming from above, somewhere nearby. No time to dally. It's possible he's already being hunted. Only seconds after he leaves the moonlight, there's yet another worrying incident. Even for this twisted place, it's unexpected, and I wager most of the viewers are as startled as the streamer. Gunshots ring out and echo across the cavern. Muzzle flashes light up some of the back half of the building, but it's too far away to pinpoint. They're shouting as well, coherent and human, yet also too muffled by the distance to make out clearly. Audio enhancement will later reveal the shouting to be something like, "Get out of my way! Move, mindless things!" Our story's protagonist freezes up again and waits until the danger may have passed. Whatever creature is lurking at the top of the shelves is lured in by the activity, and it can be heard clumsily scrambling away. There's no need for our friend to give us his thoughts. It's obvious that one of the intruders is about, and they're armed, and they seem to have some familiarity with the immediation of life that may be up ahead, or at least not afraid of them. When he does press on, it's more cautiously, quietly than before. It isn't long before the twisted pipes and metalwork of the foundry section begin to transform again. Some of the rows of shelves become fences, or warp into twisted windmills, or portions of grain silos. He passes through the front of a 19th century barn, its doors bent out of shape and splayed open. Oil lanterns glow dimly and hang from the building's rafters, but have no living flame inside. There are small fields of pumpkins and dead pigs. Not that they were ever truly alive, though maybe they could squirm about when first created earlier in the night. Totems can restore material, but their full effects don't last long. When we aren't sure of one's true potential in the hands of a proverbial master, we know that the dredged-up past Mike and Genesaw was only stable for a few hours, with complex life forms degrading the fastest. What isn't known is what occurs once the imitation world shuts down completely, and what all it might take with it. Mike and Jenna weren't heard from again after they witnessed that ending, and if our friend can't escape, he might be the next to find out. Oddly, the visit to the land's agricultural past stretches for only a few hundred feet or so, despite the area hosting farmland for well over a century. Theories develop about repeated viewings of the stream that the length of time doesn't correlate with the size of the place's representation. Rather, it may have been how beloved or remarkable that place was to those that knew it. The idea that I'm more subscribed to is similar. It's really about the number of people that once passed through this corner of the world and kept it in their memories. That would explain why the rural display covers less ground than a once popular mall that survived for a fraction of the time. Whatever the truth, after the sampling of farm life, we leave civilization for good and are on our way to the expected epicenter of the night's events. Once he passes by a few log cabins, his sweeping beam of light only illuminating the solid black bark of large pine trees. An entire forest, endless at first glance, stretches outward with little room to maneuver. The actual canopy and pine needles aren't visible, if they exist at all. Like an AI-generated mistake, the giant trees seem to be all trunk and disappear into the dark ceilings. They might even keep going into the night sky, but we're trapped inside and can't be sure. A few steps into the woods, more croaking comes. It's deep and deranged, the noise of a monster. His video feed shaking as his nerves begin to finally fray. He aims the camera upward. His light hits a solid black creature hanging from the bark at least 50 feet above. We aren't certain if it's blinded or already falling to pieces and bumbling, but either way, it comes crashing down and nearly crushes our explorer. Its bulk explodes on impact, and what's left writhes and contorts as new masses grow and split open. The grotesque scene culminates when a melting human head, one of an obese woman, briefly emerges from the thing's shoulder, lets out a guttural groan, and vomits up an empty perfume bottle. The creature then goes still and silent and continues to degrade, with some of its inky flesh dissolving into dark smoke. After witnessing this, our narrator responds in a way that may have finally broken some of the tension of that night, which had left viewers at the edge of their seat. I remember letting out a laugh while watching live and filling the role of chat moderator. "Okay," he mutters, steps over the corpse and continues on. Really, what else was there to say? The trees are deceptively non-labyrinthian. As big as they were formed from rows of shelves and consumer goods, so there's still a straight path through them. The only thing of note in the forest trek is the occasional odd chanting in a dead language, the source unknown. By 4 a.m, we emerge from the woods and step into the inner circle of the most corruption. The sights ahead are the strangest yet, but they aren't what gets my attention right away. After entering a dimly lit area and immediately ducking behind a tree before the audience can see it, he makes a quiet announcement. "My cam just pinged my phone. They're in range. Hold on, I just have to minimize the stream and check. Lost 4 of them in the mess, but 2 of them, a regular one and an IR, are still running. The signal's not strong enough to see our feed, though. I've I'll have to get closer. Problem is, well, look at this. He pokes his camera out, and we get our first glimpse of what we will come to know as the Ritual Land. I'd compare it to an animatronic tour from hell. Understandably, he's hesitant to step into this domain, but there's no other way through. The performers do seem a little too invested in their activities to pay anyone walking through much mind. Time periods have converged in this place, and maybe due to the closer proximity of the totem, the moving imitations of humans here are immaculate. At least for soulless, mindless copies of people the land remembers. As he begins to navigate the twists and turns around each site, we quickly get an idea of just how blood-soaked the cyclical local history has become. There's no order or organization, and the characters and their duplicates don't appear to acknowledge those outside their divided set pieces. But we can see how many times these rituals have happened in all their forms. In an untouched old-growth forest, a forgotten tribe shaman encircles a radiating yet frozen fire. Inside is a wooden totem, or perhaps, in his case, an effigy. They pray and watch it burn. In another iteration of his ceremony, they instead sacrifice a hog and wrap its entrails around a totem of bone. Later, in the walk, past further animal sacrifices, the tribe cover their faces with crimson as they kill one of their own for the sake of their coveted dark god and an ongoing desire to preserve their land or village, or to transform it into something else. At this time, some tribesmen turn towards the camera with questioning or threatening gazes. It's frightening and makes our friend move faster, but this also happens with other groups on occasions. Yes, every group of people that came into contact with or became aware of the land's nature eventually create their own ritual to give power through belief to an object that seemingly wills itself into being so it can be created and used. We see destitute and desperate farmers killing one cow to, well, who can be sure, make the rest of the herd healthy, enrich the soil, bring rain, instantly sprout a crop, maybe just build them a few barns. The steel workers become particularly cruel in their bid to keep business alive. The rugged men covered in heat-protective gear and soot go from making totems out of steel to bashing in a goat's head, and finally to dropping one of their own into a vat of molten metal. Sacrifice is always where it leads, as their beliefs become more and more demanding and insular. Inflicting pain shows their devotion and power, and then, mysteriously, each rain comes to an end, and the land goes quiet for a time, as if it devoured everything about them. Sleepy Pines, being a shopping mall that existed in an era of connectivity and communication, survives in memory because of those things. But little is known about the actual tribes, the farmers, the steel mill. And why is it that records of strange objects and ritual groups just don't exist? They shouldn't have all been so secretive as to disappear from history entirely. I think the breathing earth, as it was referred to by the Sleepy Pines owners, eventually sates some need or hunger and takes it back. The gifts, the power to mold and create, all of it. It inhales more deeply than usual and leaves the land a blank slate, with no trace remaining of those who knew of the nature of the place. And so, a once beloved shopping mall slowly dies, and the people who manage it were never heard from again. Of course, the mall's ritual site also appears many times, more so than the ceremonies that happened before them. Pierce Colchester and his little group of capitalists performed many rituals over the years, using a variety of animals, but failing on the one night they tried to offer up a person. It was difficult for me to see those rituals on the stream, those business types and their animal masks, spilling blood across the white tiles of the mall. It kept bringing me back to that night where I met them, back in the 1990s. That's right, if you haven't figured it out yet, I was the girl from the prequel story, still living on the tropical island far away from all that, but still entranced by a piece of the land. Someone had to write up a report, or a story, from that night at the warehouse. Mostly because of my first-hand account, the community voted me to be the author. And since said story isn't really my own, I'll keep it going. Amongst those in the animal masks, the man who sees himself as a rat seems to track the camera each time he appears in one of the annual rituals to improve or revivify the mall. I don't know if the videographer notices. His pace is now frenzied, and he voices his concern about becoming a sacrifice himself. Near the back of the warehouse, the ritual site stops manifesting. There's nothing but the black matter and warped remnants of shelves. It may be the eye of the storm, where there's too much chaos for anything to be created. Yet even here, a few things still survive in the tar-like muck. I can see my camera's feed now, from the one that still works, he says quietly. Not sure where they are, but they show my flashlight. They're covered in dead pixels, too. I think the IR one is pointing at me. Yeah, I see myself waving at it. Hold on. I'll try sharing the app screen. After some tech fumbling, he mirrors his phone, and we see a thumbnail array from his camera. Those that haven't been mutated or crushed by events have a whole mess of pink dead pixels. On one cam, they're clustered on the left of the frame, on another on the right. On the infrared, more to the center. So, when a camera points towards an active totem, its sensors get gradually damaged, right? I wonder if we can use the dead pixels to, triangulate where it might be in all this mayhem. Then, I could destroy it. The chat agrees with this idea, and he sloppily starts flipping through the 3 remaining feeds, using his beam of light to see where the cameras are aiming. There's nothing visible to the eye, no glowing idol that would be easy to spot in the darkness. So, this is all we have. On the 5th switchover to the infrared camera, 2 figures are suddenly standing behind our explorer. While he's warm, they're bright hot. Oh shit, he nearly screams, as those at home jump in their seats. He turns around to confront the pair, but doesn't say a word. We're left with a third-person view made of cool and warm hues for a moment. He composes himself, lets out a cough, and switches the stream back to his camera phone. Lit dimly by an indirect glow from his flashlight, we see the faces and eyes looking back at us. They're pale, and their expressions are vacant, but they're otherwise just as real as any of the people in the ritual display. Michael. Jenna, he murmurs, in a kind of solemn reverence. Are you... Can you understand me? What happened to you two? They're quiet. We don't know how closely they represent the real missing couple, or what they're thinking, if anything. They could be sizing up a potential ally, or prey. It's Jenna that blinks first, so to say. Her eyes drift over to something off-screen. The camera doesn't budge. Down there, she says flatly. It's below. Below what? I don't... You mean the totem? It's underground? Mike speaks, just as stoically. If you stay, When it all stops, you go inside. Destroy it or run. Hiding won't work. Jenna stares right into the camera, and a glimmer of light flashes in her eyes. You're doing what we wanted to. Do people remember us? The land remembers, Mike adds. The scene, it could be from any ghost movie where a character struggles to have a conversation with a spirit. It's not something anyone can prepare for. Still, he tries, telling them, of course, you're pretty much legends, and over 10,000 people see you right now. Mike works his face into an eerie smile for the camera, but he smiles nonetheless. He even raises an arm as if to wave, but looks disappointed as it instead crumbles away into dust. Neither one of them is stable enough to stay for long, and we know they're only mimics, copies of the originals, wherever they are now together. Even so, to see something like this live, I'm at a loss for words. I can't describe the feeling and reaction from the community. There are at least 24 questions we all want to ask the echoes of Mike and Jenna, but we can't be selfish when a life is in danger. While it's subtitled, it seems like the two expend a great deal of effort just to speak at all. Our ghostly whisperers move on, leaving the original explorer in peace.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.